Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the presentation, and clearly there's going to be other opportunities to get into some of the muck of the deal because there's a lot to this. It's very complicated, and for me, it's one thing to understand. I need to understand the dynamics a little bit. So I appreciate your being here. The idea that the stadium itself, just the stadium piece, is being split 50-50 between the between the Rays and between the city and the county. That's kind of a starting point for me, and I don't know if that's good or bad. So at one point in my life, I used to think that if we had 50% ownership, that there was a pretty good commitment. We've heard of development deals like this, but much more, probably larger, like out in Los Angeles, where the owner paid for the entire stadium, but got all the development rights around it. So, and I'm sure that the comparison of development rights is significantly different. So, but for me to understand kind of what's happening on that development rights side is important. So hopefully over the next month or two, we can at least get a better picture of what that is. For example, an office building. You talked about, I think it was 1 million square feet of office, of medical office space. And if I try to do that over 30 years, there's a return on investment, the net present value of that. It's pretty significant. And all of that now goes to the owner, the development group. All of those, that particular element goes to it. So if you get, I'm just as an example, you're getting $30 a square foot triple net there. You're talking about monies of $450 to $460 million in present value over 30 years. That's a big deal just for that office space. Now, they're taking the risk. Doesn't belong with government. It belongs with the developer. So that's a different story. But just trying to understand a little bit of what that is all about will be helpful to me. And as we look at that and how it combines with the stadium, as things move forward and we're hitting the target versus the minimum, what clawback provisions do we have if the developer at some point decides that this is not for me and, things go south or they decide that, it's not going to happen. So that's important. I'm assuming that the buildings all become owned by the development company. They'll build them, they'll own them, they'll lease them, they'll manage them. The land around it and under it will still belong to local government entities. Is that true? Or is the land underneath it going to become part of their ownership as well?
So in the approximately 60 acres where the development, what we're talking about today, that land would become owned by the developer with the exception of the right-of-ways. The land where the stadium and the parking garages exist will remain under the county's ownership.
So back to that point about providing infrastructure, providing land, which, normally you have to pay for that, right? It's part of the deal, part of the overall deal. So they're getting that as well. And so just that to me is really important to understand. And then the last piece, I guess I would just say, speaks to the financing of this. And I've heard about the bonding, and I've heard about us bonding along with you. And I'm not quite sure I understand it. I'm not sure I want to have one joint bond that commits each to each other on that. But that's something else I'll need to know a little bit more about. We may want to pay off those high interest costs sooner and get out from under those excessive costs. I don't know how we're going to want to do it. That's still to be determined. But so look forward to as you guys say, partnership. This is a big deal, and just want to make sure that the residents of this county are getting a fair deal. And that's up to all you guys and up to us to make sure that the Rays are good partners. They have been to this date. I love that, and I'm hoping for that going forward. But just want to make sure that it's a fair deal, and the risk should lay with them, not with us, on the development. So thank you. Appreciate your time.